My name is Ann Cardy, and I would like to welcome you to the Maroon and White Room at Pikeville High School. This is a room of memorabilia that we have had so much fun collecting, and someone who has helped me with the collecting is my former student, Randy Roberts, and someone who has certainly helped with the monetary end of it is my superintendent, Mr. Jerry Green.
This year, Pikeville Independent Schools celebrates 100 years, and we thought what better way than to begin with the Maroon and White Room, or our very own museum for our K-12 school district. On behalf of the Board of Education, I'd like to say thank you to Ms. Cardy and to Mr. Roberts for all the hard work in here, and we would encourage each and every one of you to come visit and share a part of our history.
You know, all of this started in '76.
It did.
We were leaving the original building and we were coming to the new school building. And Parker Tiller called me down to the office. I was teaching journalism and I was a yearbook sponsor. And he said, "Mrs. Cardy, why don't you do a history of the school?" So I thought, oh boy, this is my lesson plan for the year. And so I came back and we got started. You were one of my students. And we went out and we interviewed people. We got them on tape. And this, as you well know, was this first history that we published, the 1976 Pikeville High School yearbook. And of course, it's really two yearbooks because the sepia pages are the history of the school, and the other pages, let's see, just the regular yearbook for your all's class.
You know, it was interesting that who would have thought that when I joined your journalism class that mustard seed of faith in wanting to do this would have created the beginning of a written history and the 65 years that we had at that time. And here we are celebrating 100 years.
Oh, I know it. It's
and
wonderful.
it's been an incredible journey.
This room used to be the boardroom, and we would come in for our board meetings, and I would say to the other board members, you know, when we get our new building, I would really like to have this room because I've got a lot of stuff. Randy, you have a lot of stuff, and we got to have someplace to put that stuff. And I mean, I kept saying this for years, and finally when our new board building was built, I got this room and started this. And of course, what we did was we had to have display cases, and we started by asking ourselves, how do we need to start? And we decided we needed yearbooks. We tried to get every yearbook. We tried to get class pictures, and we are still without some class pictures, and we're still without some yearbooks. So I'm hoping during this 100th year celebration that people will come and say, well, you don't have my class picture, to which I will respond, I can't hang it up if I haven't got it. And maybe that class picture will come in.
You know, there's been so much support for this. Your love of history, your love of the school. Your mother was a teacher here, and you and all of your family were graduates of Pikeville High School, Pikeville Independent Schools. But as that, again, a mustard seed of faith that started in 1915 to be the only public high school in the county, in Pike County. So it was an incredible time, and it's been an incredible journey for 100 years for an independent system.
Absolutely. To
remain independent, and the scholastic integrity of the school, the academics, just every facet of school life has been there. And what's been awesome is people have been willing to share that. There's nothing like your school experience. We have class rings that people have donated. We have yearbooks. If you go online, we have all of the yearbooks online that you can open and turn page by page. Several were lost during floods or other catastrophes, perhaps, and now they're available to them. And it's an exciting time to go back.
And you know, people walk in, I never know what a day is going to bring. I was here one day and Judge Rutherford came in, and he brought me his mother's diploma, and I can't remember what year it was, 30-something, I think. Well, I'll look that up in a minute. And her class picture and her class ring. all three of those things. I mean, that's enough to make anybody jump up and down and shout if you're interested in history.
And with your journalism classroom that I was a part of 41 years ago, Miss Carty.
That hurts.
But we were able to do a lot. But the class photos that we have, the yearbooks, the first one being 1930. It's interesting. And this past May, the 99th class graduated from Pikeville Independent School.
So disappointed because they weren't the 100th class.
100th will be next year. And you know, the very first class, Vernon Stump.
One graduate.
One graduate. In 1916, a class of one. And when we interviewed him back in 75, he said, sure was hard, no one to cheat off of. He said, you're all on your own. Not only we've been able to do this through Miss Carty's dedication and interest, but for the 100th anniversary, it's exciting. We've got a lot of community support. We have over 500 people coming to our prom on Saturday night, August the 1st. Celebrations July 30th, 31st. We'll have registration, Get the Scoop ice cream social, pep rally, a Panther crawl, run, walk on Saturday morning. It's just an exciting time, and people are excited about coming home. They're excited about seeing their classmates.
I want to go back because I want to tell the people something that you didn't know, I didn't know, and most people do not know, most people in this area. This first public high school was not just Pikeville High School. It was Pikeville and Pike County High School. The two boards came together and worked together until, actually, I think Pikeville stopped paying Pike County in the early 40s. But wasn't it wonderful that we had that cooperation between the two boards?
Recognizing the need for secondary education.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Grades 1 through 8 were available, but not beyond.
And there were little 1- and 2-room schoolhouses all over the place in the early, well, let's say 1911 to start there. And when this school opened, well, let's just start. Let's start with a mighty special. Mr. Oliver was not our first superintendent. Tobias Kindred was our first superintendent. And there's a picture of him over there with the first basketball team, which started in 1916, 1917. And under that is a picture of the first football team, which started in 25. We have these wonderful, wonderful early sports pictures because of a man named Cact Hatcher, who was in school here. And when he graduated from here, he went to college, and then he came back home, and he coached until he went into the service in the 1940s. But we have these wonderful early pictures, and all of them identified. I mean, I can't remember my students that well. I remember you because you're always hanging around. But I absolutely have a hard time remembering. Cac did not, and he wrote. He said who they were, and his wife wrote them down. And he sent us a dress box filled with these wonderful pictures. I mean, it was just fantastic.
He came back to Pikeville just to see the school, and his first wife had passed away, and his second wife came with him and got to see that part of his life. He gave us all these treasures that he had when he was not only a student but also a coach. And one item that we don't have at this location, there are two maroon and white rooms, but one is in the board office on 2nd Street. He had a pit bull, not pit.
No, it was a Boston Terrier.
A Boston Terrier, excuse me. And it had a little maroon coat. And it was corduroy, and it had a panther on the side, and it had pleats, and it buttoned underneath. And he gave us that coat. And Miss Carty bought an animal.
I searched forever to find it.
And so that coat is on that
A
dog
Boston Terrier.
On 2nd Street. Mm-hmm. And it's just a real rich history because it's all been fun. Over here on this table, we see the Tom Thumb wedding. Mr. Oliver, when he did come to Pikeville as both superintendent and principal in 1926.
He started in 22.
22. Always looking for ways to engage students and to make some money. So the Halloween Carnival was one concept, but over here we have the Tom Thumb wedding dress that Jane Wells Ratliff Amos wore in 1951 when she was the bride. and she has kept that dress all these years. Jane's a graduate of the class of '63 and retired faculty, active member of the alumni board. And we couldn't have done a lot of things without her help and that whole entire board. But that's a special piece for this 100th anniversary reflection.
And I think we should mention that her groom
Yes.
was Johnny Phillips, who is now Dr. Phillips.
Yes.
And
Yes.
he's an orthodontist, and he and his wife have moved to Lexington.
But you know, we've been able to extend this open invitation for people who want to come and see the Maroon and White Room and share in the memorabilia, learn about this part of the history. We also have display cases for music and theater of the school. And one of the photos that's in this book, it's an aerial shot of the campus. It shows what Pikeville High School looked like in 1976. And the only thing that's still familiar from that is the Blue Goose Gym, which was the replacement when the T.W. Oliver Memorial Gymnasium burned in 1969. It was in use for 20 years. And the Blue Goose, as we called it, was erected and still there. But that photo shows what a impressive campus. And I just can't understand how that huge
How you
building
can
looked in 1915.
And how you can get all of those buildings on that small an area.
The photo of the building faced 4th Street. That was the main campus.
Okay, I have to talk a little bit about Mr. Oliver. Mr. Oliver, of course, I was blessed because he was a superintendent. When my mother was teaching, he was a superintendent. When I was in school, I went all through school under Mr. Oliver. He came here in 1920. He was a brilliant man. I mean, back then, he graduated from the University of Chicago, and he got his master's at the University of Chicago, and then he got his superintendency certificate at Columbia University.
Yeah.
I mean, it's something to go to those schools now, and he did it even before the 20s. But he taught on the college level, he taught in high school, and he came here as he was investigating the summer school program. Of course, the summer school, from the time the high school started, was important because in the summer, the teachers who had been teaching in the 8th grade schools had only 8th grade educations, and they would come in to get high school courses, which of course they really needed. Well, Mr. Oliver came, and we'll never know. Oh, I wish I could talk to him. Why? He decided that this was where he wanted to locate. And he came, and he stayed until his death in 1969. 49, I'm sorry. Thank you. We begin to, as we age, we begin to go.
You know, that's another important part about the 100th anniversary of Mr. Oliver. Mr. and Miss Oliver had no children of their own, but a great niece of Mr. Oliver's will be attending the 100th anniversary celebration. And that's very significant.
Mm-hmm. But when he came, of course, there were about 500 people, was the population in Pikeville at that time. And the only way to get anywhere was by steamboat. Of course, we had a train by then. The first train came through in 1905. But the county roads were it was deplorable. Wagons, horses, you know, even if the schools had been there, how in the world would the students have gotten there? Well, Mr. Oliver, who was the most determined man to educate everybody, what he said was, if anybody complained about starting school, he said, I can't wait because I want to fight ignorance. That was his motto.
Well, and also, as you're talking about that, when he would ride horseback through the county in this, you know, all over to encourage people to come,
Mm-hmm.
the poster that says the great student body of Pike County High School.
And we have different posters. We have one outside the door. We have one here.
Profiled the faculty, the campus,
And
everything.
Just to urge people to come in. And of course, the student body started increasing. And so he was a builder. Behind this building, he built a little white gym. Well, that building, I guess we'd better say, the first floor was for elementary students. The second floor was for high school students, and there was a sort of a ramshackle auditorium. It wasn't anything fancy. The basement, you remember, had the basketball court.
Yeah.
It was a regulation-sized basketball court, and there were seats on either side, but the audience had to stand up when the game was going on to get their feet off the floor. There were restrooms in the basement of this new building. Restrooms when hardly anybody, I mean, everybody was still going out in the backyard.
Yeah.
I mean, it was really amazing. But anyway, so many of the people began coming in, and they had to have a place to stay. Well, no, let's go back to the gym. The gym was built, a little white building, and then the very next year, an elementary school, a little white wood elementary school was built. Well, that filled up, and he soon started the elementary building on Scott Avenue. Wonderful brick building. And that's where the elementary students were to go, and there was an auditorium there that held 1,000 people, and it was finished in 29, and the first class to graduate from there was the class of 29, and they were the first ones to wear caps and gowns. And we have pictures of them in their caps and gowns.
Right.
But he was such an advocate for education. And I really believe that Mr. Oliver's spirit still walks these halls. I truly do, because we have tried all these years to succeed academically, well, in sports too, but somehow we have better luck with academics than with sports, at least now. But he was a wonderful man, and it was fitting that he died in a classroom.
He was teaching summer school and wrote on the board, "I'm sick."
I'm sick.
I guess he had a stroke, but he was certainly a man of the ages. And the school grew and expanded, and in the fall of 1967, the elementary building was built on Chloe, where they are now. And then the junior high went to the old elementary building. And then this new structure, as I still refer to it, opened in the fall of 1976. We've had several
Disasters.
administrators that's come through, outstanding
no.
men and women.
Oh, I didn't mean to say disasters before you
No.
said administrators. No, I thought you were going to
We've
start talking
survived
about fire and
floods
flood.
and fire and everything. But it's been a terrific journey, and it's so exciting now with the 100th anniversary coming up. People wanting to come back, and have been so generous in their support of loaning us items, giving us items for the Maroon and White Room. It's very good. We also do something too, though, to give back. We have an alumni board, which is also all volunteer board, and we award scholarships every year to senior class, as well as other scholarships that we don't fund, but that are funded by previous graduates in gratitude. And we also have great support of the employees and the faculty and certainly the board. Ann Carty, not only a graduate of the school, but was a faculty member and librarian and member of the Board of Education. So there's that good positive support for what we want to do and have successfully been able to put together. But also we recognize individuals who have distinguished themselves as a distinguished alumni, and we have those plaques in the foyer. And we also want to recognize some of those folks who've given of their time and talent, but perhaps they weren't graduates, friends of the school, and we have the honorary alumni. Won't you talk about one great mistake or oversight that we had in an honorary alumni that we are correcting this year?
Of course, these plaques and the honor and giving of these plaques started in 1990. And when we started talking about this 100th anniversary, I said, we have never honored Mr. Oliver. Merciful heavens, we have to do that. So that's going to be done at our what we're calling the prom, when we meet to eat.
Saturday night.
And
But, the University of Pikeville has Distinguished Educators Hall of Fame, and they recognized
they beat us to
Mr.
it.
Oliver, which was appropriate.
Absolutely.
And it was nice to see that, because there's always been a feeling of camaraderie and support
Absolutely.
among the city's schools, the Pike County school system.
All the educators.
Yes, the college, the university.
I want to mention two outstanding coaches. One of them is John Bill Tribbett, who was a local boy from his family who's been here for generations. And John Bill went to UK. He played under Rupp, and then he came back home. And he was here for 17 years. And he had, in those 17 years, I hope I get these numbers right, 14 district champions, 7 regional championships. And you know, if you're in a regional championship, you go to state. He never did make it to state. He never did win state. That was 1957. But 1957 was an absolutely dreadful year because that was the year that we had the worst flood of our memory. And our gym floor was ruined, couldn't be played on. And so he and his team would get in, there were 20 of them, they would get in 3 cars and go anywhere that they could find a floor to play on. And they were ranked first or second the entire year. Of course, Courier Journal was the big paper then, not Lexington Herald. And they lost. And they came in third, beat Russell County for third place, but
Having overcome all those other obstacles of the flood. And just before you talk about another coach, this chair was the chair that John Bill coached from. But this is an example of the chairs that were in the T.W. Oliver Gymnasium that opened in 1949. A wood chair with a back. There's also stadium seating, but it was quite a facility. It was a very deliberate tribute for Mr. Oliver, very fitting. And you were going to mention another coach.
Well, no, I don't want to mention that yet. I want to say John Bill was named Coach of the Year.
Yes.
And there's a wonderful article there about him.
And just recently was inducted.
Whenever they're having that, he's being inducted in the 2015 Hall of Fame, and so is Dickie Prater, who was a great ball player.
One of his players.
Yes.
Yes.
I want to mention one other player who is I nominate him for the best looking man that ever graduated from Pikeville High School. His name is Dutch Ishmael, and he played for Cac Hatcher. He was All-State. He went to UK, was named All-American, and he was drafted by Chicago Bears.
I think so.
Chicago have Bears?
Yes.
Okay, I'm not the brightest thing when it comes to football. But anyway, and he was alive in '76 when we started doing this. I talked to his wife. He was not well then. Okay, another coach that we have to talk about is Hillard Howard.
Yes.
We're going from the basketball court to the football field. He came here, when did Hillard come?
1968, I think.
Well, anyway, he never had a losing season, never. One tough customer, let me tell you. In fact, he was a Golden Gloves champion.
Yes.
I mean, he could really...
Good discipline.
Oh, good discipline. But anyway, he and his team won 3 consecutive Class A state championships in 87, 88, and 89. And they had remember the article in People magazine?
People magazine featured that.
In 88.
The Boys of Fall.
I have the People magazine,
Yes.
and I also have the yearbook that it was in.
Yes.
Isn't that neat?
It's awesome.
Isn't that neat?
The nice thing about all of this, though, is that we've been able to blend the history. No one lives in the past. We're living in the present, but we appreciate how we got here. Even this building, the first bell, the bell from that
Yes.
building,
Yes.
it was dedicated to alumni. It's out front.
Let me tell that. Randy and I were doing some research one evening, and we opened one of the newspapers, because, of course, all the school newspapers that were turned into us, we would read them. And we read where Bruce Walters had won an essay contest, which we think was statewide. And there was a prize. And the prize was an electric bell system for the school.
Yeah.
Well, Randy said, electric bell system? What did they use before that? So he left the room. He went to find Ernest. Ernest was our maintenance man, who was the longest serving employee of the school system, incidentally.
Ernest Elkins.
Ernest Elkins. They got a ladder and they went up to the attic of that building, and that's where the bell was. And so now the bell is out front at the entrance here.
Dedicated to the alumni.
Absolutely. Isn't that neat?
It is. It's
Isn't
awesome.
that neat?
It is.
We have had a ball. We truly have. This is and this is a sure enough. I mean, at one point, Pat Cassidy was able to get into this. I can't wait for her to see it. She came in one day dragging a garbage bag.
I remember.
Dragging the garbage bag with all of her cheerleader uniforms in it. How I love people who keep things. And this, I love this. This is a cheerleading uniform from the 40s. This was Dolores Collier's, who was a neighbor of mine down on Meyer Barnes. She came back to a reunion and she wore that. I mean, I hate her. Can you imagine? She came back wearing that. But I said, all right, I want it. She said, I'm not ready to give it up. But Dolores, her daughter, came back and brought it to me. And I have a picture here of Dolores in her uniform and her brother, Buddy Johnson, and he was number 34 in the basketball team.
You know, also during the 100th anniversary celebration, we'll have items for sale, and one of the things is going to be this watercolor done by local artist Irene Ritchie. So we have prints of that'll be there, bricks from the old building, and all kinds of goodies for folks
that we hope people will want to buy.
Yes. Also, you know, downtown was busy and crowded, and we had a school patrol. And you see here in the one of the cases, we have a school patrol armband, which would help direct traffic, stop traffic, help the students get to campus for that kind of thing. So there again, it's another example of people sharing their high school memories.
And Pikeville we have always had a history of band music. And one that I'm very interested in because my three children were all in it. But when C.J. Birch was here in the early 70s.
A lot of fundraising activities and so forth, but they went in style and they performed very well.
Yes, yes.
Mr. Birch may be coming back to
He is,
be a part of the celebration.
He is planning to come.
We have an alumni band that'll be playing for us at our pep rally.
This diploma is the oldest diploma that I have. A friend of mine, Jodine Anderson, I was going up to talk to the Rotary Club about the Maroon and White room, and Jodine came down to help me carry stuff up, and he pulled this out, had it tucked under his arm, and he said, I wonder if you'd be interested in this. A diploma from 1921. Oh, yes, I'm interested in that. And I love this little model up here that has the purple first place on it.
Where did that come from?
A man in Florida had model trains, and he had a big old thing, his daughter said, in the basement, and he made all these different buildings, and that one won first prize. And I thought, here that dear man was, an old man living in Florida, had never forgotten his high school.
Yeah.
I mean, it's so wonderful.
Okay, so July 30th, 31st, and August 1st, we're having a celebration, the 100th anniversary of Pikeville Independent Schools. We have a lot of activities planned, opportunities to come together, see classmates, see old friends, make new friends of this 100 years that we have going. So I hope you'll be there. You coming, Ann?
I think maybe I can clear my calendar.
That'll be great. We'll be happy to see you there. Thank you.